welcome to another episode of Classrooms to Closings. I'm Mary Beth Burns and I'm a realtor here in the Metro Atlanta area, and I'm here to educate you on all things real estate. If you follow me on my personal Facebook page, you know that I do some Monday mini-sodes, which is kind of like a miniature version of these episodes. And last week's episode was my mini-sode was about great schools and why great schools is just such a terrible way to evaluate if a school is a good school. And the response that I got was so unbelievably positive. Of course, I got all of my teacher army that follow me in support, saying like, thank God, they're so sick and tired of hearing about great schools. I'm just gonna pull up great schools on my phone, and I'm gonna pull up a school that I know a lot about. I've worked at several different schools, I guess now more than 20. So I'm gonna pull up one of those schools really quick, and I'm not gonna say what school it is. So let me just tell you the basic reason why great schools is not great. Great schools is not great. It is mostly based on standardized testing. What it tells you is how well those students that year took a standardized test. That's all it tells you, okay? So let's see. That's the majority of this score is it's academics, and then right under academics it says test scores. Test scores are not a great way to measure academics. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna tell you some things that you can look at instead. It's not just gonna be great schools bashing session. They also talk to you about student progress, which is really, that's just another way to measure standardized testing. But to the average person reading this, that's not so apparent. They talk about low-income students, which I'm not sure why that's relevant. The environment, it tells you about student demographics, discipline, what? Being a former assistant principal, I can tell you right now, they don't know anything about discipline at a school because that stuff is confidential. That's baloney. Yeah, and then it just basically goes on to talk about test scores, and then this school that I have pulled up, it says test scores, a worrisome sign. It has this like owl that's like scared. Test scores at this school fall below the state average. This suggests that most students at this school may not be performing at grade level. Great. So if you really value standardized testing, because you know what, I don't know everyone who's watching this, maybe you do really want your kid to go to school and do super well in the standardized test, and you want all the other kids that your child's going to school with to also do well on the standardized test. If that is the make or break thing that you look at when picking a school, Great Schools is your girl. If you don't, I am going to give you a couple of tips as a former educator, now realtor, on what you should do to figure out where you should buy a house if you want to buy based on the school. Okay, so the biggest thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go on a tour. I know that COVID-19 right now is making that more challenging for most people, but you can still do a virtual tour of the school, and that would be better than looking at Great Schools. But when all this settles down and you will be able to have school tours again, you want to go and you want to see the school. I kind of been thinking about it like, if you have ever participated in online dating, you know that you can see the person on the app and they look a certain way or they're giving off a certain vibe, and you're interested, and then you show up on the date and it's just horrible because you just weren't a good match. So the same thing with school tours. Even though it might look good on paper, you're gonna wanna go and see if it's a good match for you and your family. When you're on the tour, you want to make sure you're paying attention to what the school looks like, not necessarily the age of the buildings. I'm gonna tell you something. I've been in some wonderful schools and the building is super old, and I've also been in some schools that were disasters and they were in brand new buildings. So when I'm saying look at the school, I'm not saying look at how nice or new it is. What I'm saying is like look at what's around, look at what's posted on the wall. That's gonna tell you a lot about the heart of the school. What's on display, what do they value? You're gonna wanna look at the students. Are they, if you pass any in the hallway, or if you're lucky enough to be able to peek into a classroom, do the students look happy? Do they look like they're interested and engaged, or do they look really bored? Are they sitting in rows and they're just, is it very robotic? Or are they working together? Just look at the students. Look at the teachers. Teachers can tell you with a look the heart of the school. So go and kind of, look at the teachers. Do they look like they're happy to be at work? Do they look excited about teaching whatever it is that they're teaching the kids? Definitely check out the teachers. Okay, so I'm gonna give you kind of 4 different categories of things that you can ask when you're on the school tour, or if you do it now, if you're doing like a virtual tour or a Zoom or something with the person who gives the school tours. Here's 4 things that you can ask. This is the first question you should ask, and it's a make or break question. You want to ask, what is the instructional focus of your school? If the person on the phone or over Zoom or in person with you cannot answer this question, or they fumble through it, or they give you a very generic, broad answer that doesn't make sense to you, do a quick about face and leave. If people at the school cannot articulate what the instructional focus of the school is, that means that there is not one. The second thing that you're gonna wanna ask is kind of dive into that a little bit deeper and ask, what do they do to support their students? So what do you do to support a struggling learner? And what do you have in place to support students who are learning above grade level or are gifted? You're gonna wanna ask both, regardless of your own personal child, because I've seen it so many times where a child struggles, and then in one subject area or one grade level, they just take off and then they're above grade level. I've also seen that the other way, where a child is consistently above grade level and then they come across something that's hard for them and they struggle. So what does the school have in place to support struggling learners? The third thing that you're gonna wanna ask is about parental involvement. Parental involvement typically is, but isn't always, an indicator of kind of the culture of the school. So is there a PTA or a PTO in place? If so, what does that look like? I would strongly encourage you to reach out to a PTA or PTO president. They're always a really good spokesperson for the school and will normally be able to give you, the parent side of things, as far as, how they feel the school communicates with them and things like that. Just because a school has a PTO doesn't mean that it's a positive thing. And you can normally get that from talking to the president or like one of the exec members. So parental involvement, you're gonna wanna ask, especially if you want to get involved. Are there volunteer options for you, to get active within the school? You're gonna wanna ask those questions. And last but not least, question number 4, you're gonna wanna ask them at the end of the tour, what makes your school unique, okay? And this could be a lot of different things, but again, this is kind of like the first question, where if they can't answer this, you might wanna think about something else. But there's so many different avenues that a school can take to kind of brand their school and brand the experience for their students. So, are they a STEM school? Are they PBL, which is project-based learning, where kids are doing a lot of real-world projects? Is it a Leader in Me school where the kids are trained in the 7 habits of leadership? Is it an AVID school, an IB school? Is it dual immersion where kids come out of the school being able to speak 2 languages? And it doesn't even have to be like a fancy program like that. Maybe what makes their school unique is that they have a really robust extracurricular activity program, or like a school spirit, climate and culture program, those types of things. You just want to know what is going to make this school stand out from the others, and ask the question. And one more thing, just nothing to ask, but just another tip if you're trying to assess if a school is a good fit for you and your family. Be careful about asking the neighbors or people that you know that have kids that go to that school. I call that bus stop talk, and it's not always the best. If you are going to talk to other people, talk to people that you trust, but also take what they say with a grain of salt, because somebody could have a great experience with a school because it was a good fit for them, and somebody might have a terrible experience with a school because it wasn't a good fit for them, or there might be a whole bunch of things behind the scenes that you don't know about. So take that with a grain of salt. I would definitely recommend the school tour as the most valid way of assessing a school's fit for you. And so in closing, if you are looking to buy a home based on its school zone, I would highly suggest getting a realtor who has a background in education. After I put the video up on my Facebook about this topic, I got some messages saying that there's some other videos out there from realtors about why GreatSchools is a good metric. Don't do that. Get a realtor who's been in education or has a good sense of how to evaluate a school's effectiveness. So anyway, that's another episode of Classrooms to Closings. Hope you all are having a wonderful day and feel a little bit more educated about real estate. Thanks. Bye.